What's up, guys? It's ItsGrawVez, and today I get the pleasure, the blessing, thank you, Lord. I finally get to share my amazing friend, Johnathon Clark. He's a graduate from Texas State in sports and exercise, Dean List, athlete, jumps real high. He's quite the Renaissance man, ladies. And but no, side note. And I'll let him do a little bit better of an introduction. But Johnathon, would you introduce yourself, please?
All right, cool. I was going to say it's a pleasure for having me on here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. My name is Johnathon Clark. I am a graduate of Texas State University. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in exercise sports science with the concentration of physical therapy with a minor in psychology. And I am now a graduate student at Texas State University pursuing my master's in exercise science. And I graduate May 12th of 2017 at 6:00 p.m.
Alrighty, so with all those accolades, I kind of want to find out where you came from, because I know you came to Churchill late. I think it might have been, was it junior year?
Senior year.
Senior year, wow. See, you made me feel like you were there so long. I'm like, yeah, I know Jay Clark since junior year, bro. We went back. Wow, so you came here senior year, and you came here from Flint, Michigan.
Yes, sir. Flint, Michigan.
So can you tell us a little bit about before you got to Churchill and what your story was like, I guess, going through Flint? Because I remember that's something that set you apart from a lot of guys that I knew at Churchill.
For sure.
It made me realize how blessed I was to hear your story.
Gotcha. Well, I'm from Flint, Michigan, born and raised. Growing up in that city, it was a very rough environment. From the years of 2010 to 2012, Flint, Michigan was one of the top 5 worst places to live in terms of crime rate, murder rate, this, that, and so forth. So being raised there, you can easily get into a lot of trouble in terms of, wanting to rob people, break into people's houses, trying to pull guns out on people, fight people, getting in trouble in school and things like that. So with my situation in particular,
I guess, what was your situation? Like, can you describe, did you have both parents at home? Did you have brothers and sisters? I mean, were you in a good crowd neighborhood, or like?
Gotcha. Neighborhood, I didn't live in the best neighborhood. I can honestly tell you, I heard gunshots every night, and it got to the point where I was used to it. So when I actually came to Texas and I didn't hear gunshots every night prior to me going to bed, it wasn't normal, because I was used to it. But parents, I had both parents at home, my mom and dad both. But in terms of the living situation, it wasn't the best. So honestly, it was my 2 older sisters. I'm the only boy and I'm the youngest. So my 2 older sisters, they were the ones that made sure that I stayed on the right path and everything along those lines. So growing up in Flint, Michigan, a lot of my friends were getting into trouble in terms of, getting in trouble in school, not doing what they were supposed to do, wanting to fight all the time, breaking people's houses, and things of that nature. So growing up in my household, my mom and my 2 older sisters, I kid you not, man, they're both quite the disciplinarians. Like, they laid down the law. They laid down the law, so they let it be known from an early age on my part that, like, the way my friends were in Flint, Michigan, that's not how I am gonna be. Like, I'm not gonna be a reflection of my reality. So with them, they made sure I stayed on the right path in terms of doing everything I'm supposed to be doing in school, staying out of trouble and everything like that. So if I did something wrong, that butt whooping had to come out, and it hurts, you know what I mean? So yeah, like, they were the ones that, stayed on me in terms of making sure I do all the right things, make sure I was very mannerable, respectful to everyone.
I guess with that, there's a lot of guys that have parents that are, trying to teach them, right from wrong. What was it, I guess, that made you want to do the right thing? Like you said, your friends are all doing things out there that they shouldn't be. How did you redirect yourself, or how did that happen for you?
Honestly, so when I was younger, whenever my parents or my 2 older sisters told me to do something, I did it. So from a young age, of course, I didn't know why. I just listened to my mom and my sister. So the older I got, the more I realized how important it was to do the right thing in terms of keeping God first and foremost in your life, doing well in school, wanting to be successful in today's society and everything along those lines. So it just happened as I got older, I began to realize it on my own while my mom, my dad, and my two older sisters stayed on my butt. You know what I mean? So
That's awesome, man. So would you say that there were any obstacles on your way that caused you to move from Flint? Like, because it seems like from what you're saying, if you would have stayed in Flint, do you think you would be the same success, grad student, now teaching other people, being a sports, performance coach? Would those opportunities still have been present for you?
honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I can honestly tell you if I would have stayed in Flint, Michigan for my senior year of high school, I know my life would be a lot different than what it is now. Honestly, it's funny because when I moved to San Antonio, going into my senior year of high school, like for football, like I know I had a couple schools interested in me and everything like that, and then I remember a friend of mine calling me, telling me that a couple schools came up to the high school that I went to come talk to me, but I had already moved down here to Texas, so.
So you might have missed out on some scholarships, what would you say?
I mean, well, athletic-wise, yeah, but luckily I always did well in school, so I knew I could always make sure I got by academically.
And what motivated you to get, focus on school? Because I guess there's a lot of guys like you that are athletic. You could have played football if you wanted to. You could have played basketball if you wanted to continue playing. But how did you focus on academics so much and continue that in a different environment? Because you said you came to Churchill from Flint. How was that transition period? Like, was it different? Were you used to these people? Like, were you scared?
Man, honestly, well, I know you kind of hit like two things. So, okay, so in terms of the whole academics, like I knew I grew up playing sports and everything along those lines: basketball, football, track, and martial arts.
Oh, karate.
I am a first-degree black belt in American karate.
Okay.
Being occupied with those sports, I know that those were my outlets in terms of me making sure I stayed out of trouble and everything along those lines. But other than sports, I knew that I had to have a backup plan, because like I knew playing sports isn't gonna last forever. So like I was telling you before, in terms of my mom, my dad, and my sister staying on me, make sure I stay out of trouble and doing the right things, they were the main ones that instilled in me that education is the key. Especially my oldest sister, because my oldest sister is a teacher. She's been doing it for a long time now. So she was the main one that helped me with my homework and, make sure I was doing what I was supposed to do in terms of school. If I got out of hand in class at all whatsoever, she would come talk to my teachers and, straighten me out, how that goes and everything. But honestly, it was my family that put in me that education is very important. Like you need to have a fallback plan, because no one can ever take your education away from you. That's something you will always have forever. That's something you did.
100%. That's why I try and surround myself with people like you. And
I know it was another thing you had touched on as well. Oh yeah, the transition.
The transition, yeah. How was that for you? I mean, were you the one that wanted to leave Flint? Was that hard? Did you
Honestly, I made that decision to come to San Antonio.
And before you start, I feel like some people might have a difficult time leaving an area because they feel like this is where they're from, this is who they are, and they might want to, represent that. Did you feel like you were missing a piece of that by leaving, like Flint? Like, would you want to ever go back, or is it too dangerous? Like, how do you look at that from a standpoint of leaving somewhere that,
Honestly, in terms of me moving to San Antonio, I miss my family and friends back in Flint, Michigan, but in terms of the city itself, like I had said before, like from 2010 to 2012, it was one of the top 5 worst places to live in the US, so we graduated the class of 2011. So remember, I moved down here back in 2010, right before school started. So of course, during that time period from 2010 to 2012, the crime rate was at its all-time high. So I felt like it was necessary for me to move down here to, get away from that rough environment and make a better life for myself out here. So, like me and you talked about plenty of times before, my two older sisters moved to San Antonio back in 2008.
Oh yeah, they were the first ones.
They were the first ones to move down here. So it was my junior year of high school when I realized, like, I need to make a change.